Hey gun people, gonna try to get a quick one done here. It won't be quick, but I'm trying to make it quick as I can. I found a good deal on this Desert Eagle 1911. I saw it at a pawn shop today. These things normally go anywhere from, I don't know, $650 to $750. I think new retail might be $750-ish. I haven't looked it up, but it's somewhere in that area. So it's a pretty nice gun. It's made in Israel. And some people like them, some people don't. This is called the Desert Eagle. It's made by Magnum Research out of Israel. And so when I saw this gun in a pawn shop, they wanted $525, and I said, man, that's a pretty good deal for this gun. And it looked pretty clean. So I slid the barrel off, and the barrel had some stains on it. Doesn't have it now, because I've cleaned it up. What I did is I took it completely apart. I'm going to kind of go over what I do once I get a gun apart when I buy it for a 1911. And I do a complete strip detail. I'm going to show you the areas that a lot of people miss when they're cleaning, and areas that I like to hit, and things that I'm looking for. So let's get this sucker on the road here. The grips, when I get wooden grips, people don't usually take care of their grips. It's a piece of wood, so they get dry. So I usually always put some of this oil on any wood. I put it on my handrail for my stairs, any stocks I get, any wood on my guns, any wood that I want to take care of and keep nice. You rub this oil on there, and you kind of rub it in, and then it soaks in. It seems to work really well. It makes a really nice finish. And so I took those grips off. They were really dry and dull. I rubbed some of that on them, and you can tell they kind of came back to life. So they're going to look nice when I put them back on the gun. And then I took it completely apart, and I've kind of got it laid out a little bit for, there's the grip screws, and there is the top part. So these are all the parts that go on the top of the gun, and then here's the frame with all the parts that pretty much go to the frame. And I'm going to go over each of these on how I kind of look for what I'm cleaning, etc. So hopefully you can see, and I can move this up and make it work here. Alright, so I'm going to get this right in here. Places that really get neglected is the safety. The safety on the, the magazine release. There's a button in here for the magazine release, and not too many people take it out. The only way to get the trigger out is you have to take the magazine release out. And it may not look what it's supposed to look like because I've taken it apart, but I just wanted to show you, in order to get the trigger out, this piece right here goes in like that, and that holds your trigger in once your trigger's into place. So you pull this out, and then your trigger slides out. And those are two places that people neglect. There's a little bit of rust here. I didn't polish this up. You can tell a little bit. There was some rust, and I don't know if it was rust or if it's like old oil that you leave and it turns brown, because the gun doesn't look like it was fired that much. So it had some brown oil stains on the side here, on this side, around here. I kind of wiped it off. There's a little bit of oil here. Or when I get a little rust, I'll take some of this flitz. I'll put a little on my finger, and then you can kind of see a little discoloration there. I'll just kind of polish that up with this flitz, and that's exactly what I did with this area here. And hopefully you can see it. It'll turn like a little black. Then I'll take one of my old t-shirts and I'll polish that up. And it should look a little shinier. It should look a little cleaner than what I just showed to you. I'll show you the other side that I didn't do. And I can't really tell if this thing's in focus or not. So this side I didn't do. That's the side I did, or vice versa. I think this one has some yellow stains on this side. So I'm going to take a little flitz on this. And again, the purpose of making sure you pull your trigger out is this part right here is what causes your friction and what slides back and forth when you pull that trigger. So when you're pulling that trigger, it's nice if these are polished up and smooth. You don't want any excess oil goop. As you shoot rounds, you'll get black on here. So I always want to polish up my trigger. It makes the trigger a little bit smoother. And then once I wipe off that flitz, I usually just give it a squirt with some rim oil. And then that'll wipe off anything that I miss with the flitz. And that's ready to go back in. On the magazine release, you have to pull this little spring out, and I've already cleaned these two things, so they're about to go back in. But these two pieces go in where this Q-tip is. And what I'm going to do is I make sure and spray this down, then I get a Q-tip in there and I really twist it in, twist it out. And you can tell that little black stuff, that's very hard to get because it's in this long tube. And again, once I do that, I'll put a little squirt of oil in there. Most people will take that out and they say I over oil. I like leaving a little coat of oil. I don't shoot my guns that much. That I get like this and I just clean them up. So this is probably just going to go sit in my safe, or I'll load it and hide it somewhere in the house in case I need it. And then the spring goes in. So as the spring goes in, then this little guy goes in with a little screw. I've already kind of oiled that down. Give it a little squirt with oil there. Put it inside the spring here. And then take a little screwdriver and lock that in. Now there's plenty of videos online that will tell you how to do this. And so now that that's compressed and back in, that's what your thing looks like. And then I'm going to unscrew that screw right there and it'll pop out. This little piece right here will slide and lock it in. So when I'm cleaning this gun up, again, I take all the screws, the little screws like this. I put an Allen wrench in there. I spray that down with some oil, and then I put my screw on the thing and I twist that screw. And that will remove any rust or gook. You can tell I've already cleaned that. I saw where it went. I already cleaned that and I still got a little bit off. So, clean your screws for your grips. Your screws end up going in these holes right here. So I always get a Q-tip. If it doesn't fit, I'll go around it. Then I'll get a pipe cleaner. And I'll squirt that down and then clean each screw hole. And basically when you're detailing a gun like this, I want anywhere there's a hole, I want to put some oil on it and make sure I clean all these. Now I've already done this. So this little thing right here, which holds your safety catch and your tape down pin, a lot of people don't clean that, but you really want to get oil down there and get a pipe cleaner through there. This really gets dirty and nasty, and most guns I get are pretty dirty. This one was pretty dirty. It's clean now. And then I'm also going to get a Q-tip. I'm going to spray this down with oil, and you want to get really close on tight because there's a little crack right there. And then underneath, same way. Good little crack there. So then after I've done all these, where the trigger slides in, there's a little rail that guides the trigger right in here on the inside. So you want to make sure and oil and get that little rail and go up and down that little rail, and you'll be able to see it. And make sure that rail is nice and clean and free of goop. So again, I'm making sure my slide in between here is good and clean. I want to really scrub those out and get oils. That's my rail where my slide goes on my frame. I really want to do that. Any holes. I like the way, when you see a 1911 frame, sometimes you'll see this frame hole with a hole in it for the detent pin. Sometimes you'll see this hole cut right through the frame. To me, the ones that cut right through the frame are not as nice as 1911. The ones that have this extra rail gives you a little bit straight, one less place to catch. So when the slide is sliding on this, there's not a hole right here. So when you take apart your 1911, if there's a hole, to me that's usually a clue that it's not one of your high-end or better made 1911s. It's a little bit cheaper and easier instead of to cut in that hole to cut it straight. So when I saw that this had this, it was kind of nice. Again, this is, I don't know if you could read that, made in Israel, because I can't read it on the screen, but I'll hold it up there and kind of try to get the light through it. Again, all your pins that come off, you want to make sure and give a good wipe down and circle, really clean the edges. After I do this and I wipe it all down, the little ramp right here, I usually get a little, if I put this up here, it flips it so I can't see it. So you got a little ramp right here, which is where your barrel fits in here. and that's your ramp that kind of loads your bullets. So you want that little ramp there. I like it nice and polished and smooth. You don't want to sand it and take anything off, because people think if it's completely smooth, it's the way it's supposed to be. There actually is in the specs supposed to be a little gap right there. So it shouldn't be completely smooth and sanded down. So people that don't understand will sand these down and make them smooth. The actual specs of the 1911 calls for that little ridge to where it's not completely smooth. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but hopefully I'm getting it in there. And so that's pretty much the frame. The other thing that people do not take apart is this little piece right here. And this is what holds your mainspring in. It also holds your trigger spring inside. So this slides right here in the back. When you take this out, a lot of people do not take this spring out because it's a pain in the butt, and I don't blame them. Because what goes on here is this piece has to go down, then your spring has to go in, and then this piece has to go on top. And then there's a lot of videos with this on detail, so I'm just kind of going through this kind of quick. And then once you get this in here, I have to press this down and get this little bitty ass pin in this little hole the right way after I press this down and compress this real hard spring. So it's a pain to get apart, but it's a really neglected area, and usually when I stick a Q-tip in this area, I get all kind of crap and gunk out of here. And most people don't clean your mainspring housing. And I think they call this the mainspring or trigger spring. This is called a flat spring, flat plate. I've heard it called quite a few things. I'm not real sure. I didn't look it up. But and again, this piece right here that I said I wanted to really get a Q-tip through and get this hole right here. So this little spring is what fits in there. So you want to make sure this spring gets nice and clean. So when you pull this out, you know, a lot of people see this shooting across. Some of them will actually have a bend in the spring. You'll pull this out and it'll be bent. Be damn, this spring's broken. They bend them sometime intentionally so they don't come shooting out. Now, I think on the higher 1911s, the high-end ones, they don't bend the spring because they figure you're paying that much, you should know what you're doing. So this doesn't have a bent spring. I kind of like that too. Let's see here. So that's your bottom part. Again, your safety. I'm getting in here. I want to clean all around these little areas. That's turning all off my safety. This pin, I'm polishing. I'm removing anything. Go through a lot of Q-tips when I'm cleaning a new gun. When I'm working on a new one, I give it a complete. I haven't done anything with the mags yet. I'll take them down and clean them separately. But the top part up here, what I have here, this spring and your guide rod. This happened to have a full-length guide rod, which I thought was kind of nice. Some of your higher-end 1911s, a lot of them will come with the short ones. Long ones, they call it a full-length guide rod, will come smooth. You can tell. Again, this had yellow marks on it. It really looked kind of like somebody spilled coffee on it and dried. So I thought it was a little rust, but I didn't see any pitting, so I didn't care. I actually used that as kind of like a downfall, trying to get the price lowered. Kind of like, man, this got a little rust. I don't know if that's going to pit. And well, you know. So they end up taking 20% off. I got the gun for about $400 or something. So by the time it was taxes and got it out the door, I think it was $450 out the door, which I think is a really great deal for a Desert Eagle, 1911 45. So again, I polished this up with flitz. I rubbed it. I put it with my finger, and I just polished it up and wiped it down, so that removed any of that. So now I have a nice smooth guide rod. This guide rod is going to be holding this spring, so I don't want any tension or anything. So I want a nice smooth thing on here. The spring, a lot of people don't clean. Again, anytime I have a spring that I clean, I always take a cloth, put it through the spring, wrap it around, and then I twist this spring until it goes all the way through, and I clean every rail of every spring all the way through till it comes out. And that way I know when I look at that piece of cloth that there was some dirt on there. Even though I had done this already, I still got a little more dirt off it. So and when you're putting a spring, together, a lot of people don't know that there's two ends to a spring. This is kind of like the finished end. This is what I call the unfinished end. You want finished ends on something on this area smooth back here, because that's for the gun. And this end cap is going to go over this unfinished area. So it really doesn't do anything but hold the spring on. So always make sure your unfinished end goes on your cap, which holds your slide barrel in. And I'll put it together here for you in a second. And again, same thing on a slide. I'm getting all these grooves in and out here. People don't really get in there and clean real good. I want to take a Q-tip when I spray these down. to make sure that I get all the rust out of all these grooves, I always want to take something and go right in between. See that little yellow? I don't know if you can see that or not. Maybe I'll do all of them, because I did not do that, and I was going to do that after I put it back together. But since I started it, so I just cleaned all those little rails, and you can tell my Q-tip turned a little brown, which tells me a little rust on there. So again, I'm going to spray a little oil on there, and I'm going to go between each and every groove. And my Q-tip's a little brown. So there was a little minor surface rust. Not enough to see, but I don't like when I rub my gun if I get any brown. I like my Q-tips look like this when I'm done, not brown like that. So again, I'm going through all the grooves in here. I want to pull out my firing pin. Really important to pull out that firing pin, because I get my firing pin spring and my firing pin. I want to make sure it's equal. This one actually doesn't do it, but most springs on a firing pin spring, one end it will slide off easy and the other end will be tight. This one is loose on either side, so it doesn't matter which way it's go. But because this is a moving part, I'm going to put the unfinished end on this side. So if I look at these two on which one's more finished, they're both finished, so it really doesn't matter. When I say finished, it's just round. It doesn't have a sharp edge like this one is what I call unfinished. It's got a piece of wire ending it. This one is what I call finished. Comes around, it's nice and smooth. So your firing pin goes back here. A lot of people don't pull out this firing pin. This is a really dirty area. Your primer goes off in here. You get a lot of crap. I got a lot of crap out of here. But it's nice and clean now. So I pull it out. And then of course your extractor slides in here, and in this tube it gets really dirty, so I always want to pull out my extractor and give it a good cleaning. And again, I'm squirting oil down here, and then I'm getting that tube, and I want to go all the way in to where I can see that Q-tip come out. And I already cleaned this like 3 times, and look how much dirt I just got out of there again, because it's been sitting here for an hour while I'm cleaning other things with oil sitting on it. They always say when you clean a gun, you should clean it again in 3 days, because the dirt kind of seeps out of the pores of the gun. So not too much dirtier there, but still a little dirt. I mean, if you just saw it when I first pulled in there, it came out black. You know, it looked something like this, probably worse than that. But so again, when I'm cleaning these guns, I'm looking for all these. I don't remember wiping down the end here. I put oil on it. So I always get kind of some sort of clean t-shirt. So when I'm wiping, I can tell if I'm removing surface rust. And I am. You can see that brown there. So I'm going to go to a little bit cleaner area here. I'm going to clean the outside. See if I get any surface rust. I did. So that's what I'm looking for. When I'm cleaning, I want to use something that I can tell, am I still getting material off? I didn't get any of that off that time. So now I got to go in the back end, so I'm going to use my little finger, which will hopefully fit in here a little bit better. And I got some pretty good rust spots there. So this area, obviously, I'm going to take a Q-tip, and I've already done this, and I'm just going to polish the inside of that area because I know I've had oil. And even with that little rust I got out, some people be like, that's nothing, I've seen guns worse than that. Well, I've seen guns worse too, but I like my guns pretty damn clean. And I don't like finding oil and stuff in there. So I'm going to clean this up. Leave a coat of oil on there. Because, again, I'm going to oil this pretty heavy duty. Because it's going to sit in my safe for maybe a month or so. And then on a rainy day or something, when I pull one out and start cleaning it, I'm going to wipe all this excess off, and I'm going to see a little rust that is kind of eaten away and kind of help starting to break down. So when you see me put a lot of oil on here, you're going to understand that, you know, your sear, your other pins, when I cleaned this sucker, it was filthy. My flat spring, I put a lot of oil on it and let it set. I don't know if I'm going to get a lot of rust off this or not. Try to get a clean spot here. Still got some rust, nowhere near what I got before. So what I think happened with this gun is somebody had it, they stuck it in a closet or something. They either put some cheap oil that browned and aged over time, because the gun is in really, really good condition. I'm looking for wearing right along here, and I don't see a lot of wearing. Because every time the slides come back, this little pin right here kind of slides up in here, so it'll start making a wear mark. I don't see a lot of wearing there. A lot of times when your barrel comes in and out and you're shooting a lot, you'll get some marring here. There was a few scrapes here. I polished it out pretty nice. Went out with my buffing wheel, and I just put some rouge on the buffing wheel, and I kind of gave that a polish. Because the barrel looked, what I would say, trashy. It looked pretty dirty and had that dry oiled stain that wouldn't come out. And again, I was like, that's some rust. And so that helped them lower the price a little bit for me, because they didn't know how easy it was to get all this off. And then, of course, I looked down the barrel, and I don't know if you can see down that barrel or not. Grooves look good, did a good cleaning. So, I'm going to just give all these parts a spray down, because remember, I'm going to put this gun in the safe. It's going to set for a while, and when I come back and clean it, it's going to have all this oil sitting on all these parts looking nice. And that way when I put it back together, I'm going to fill. So I'll start with putting the slide back together. First thing you want to do with the slide is get your extractor in there. And then I always like to get my extractor retainer, and I put that in to make sure that this is lined up appropriately. And if it won't go in, it's not lined up. So I have to go down here and push my little extractor up a little bit, and now see if it'll go in. And if it doesn't, I'll push this down until it does, just a little bit. And there, it went in. So now I know my extractor's in the right place because it's holding it. Now I want to lay this sideways, pull this back out when I put my firing pin spring in. So now I slid that out. I'm going to get this set up to go back in, but I got to leave enough for the firing pin to get in that little hole. So I'm going to set this up just to where I can get in that hole. And again, over the years, kind of learn these little tricks. Got some hair in there. Did I press that? I might have pressed my my extractor down a little bit. Hopefully I didn't. So I need to get something to press that in there. Hopefully I'm keeping this in here. And it's not in there quite correctly, so I'm going to push up my extractor again to see if I move that a little bit. And then I'm going to try to press that firing pin in again. And there it slid in. Firing pin's going to snap out through the back there. And that locks that in. So now I know that's in there. You'll notice this is a Series 70 style versus a Series 80. Another reason I like this gun. Made in Israel, they didn't put that bullshit firing pin block safety crap that the US likes to put in every damn thing. So then after that goes in, my barrel can go in. Some people will put this part in first. In order to go in, it goes opposite, and then you have to turn it this way, because when I put my spring in, this little pin here is going to be on the spring, and this is going to slide back over it, and then the spring's going to pop it out. So you don't want to leave it this way. When you try to take it out, you got to come all the way over. And it's not coming out. So let me tap that out. Okay, so this is out. My guide rod is sitting here. It doesn't feel like it's oiled up. So I'm going to put some oil on it. I'm going to slide my guide rod in. Again, the guide rod sits on the barrel, like so. Some people put it in like that, figure out why it won't seat, etc. It goes in like it sits on the barrel, like so. So slide that in there. That's good to go. Remember the spring? I want the finished end back here on this part and the unfinished end sticking out because that's where my end cap's going to go. And then I'm going to put my end cap on, which I lost. I just had. Here it is. It rolled off. So I want to hold this down. A full length guy rod. I'm going to go ahead and put this on now. So I'm just going to push this down on here. It's going to seat that barrel in. I'm going to slide this to stop it. Then I'm going to use something to hold it down. If you don't have anything to hold down to something flat, that'll slide over it. As it slides back, it'll click up. Pretty tight tension. There it goes. It popped up. So now that can't spin. So my bottom slide is together. Or my bottom slide. My slide is together. Now I'm going to work on the frame. And you know what? I have no idea what time I'm on. So if you've liked it so far, you'll come back for 2. If you don't, well, that's okay. I'm going to put together the bottom part on a 2 because I don't know what my time is. And so we'll make this part 1 for going over a new gun or a used gun.